Today's Thursday, December 6th.
It's really going to expose my uneducated mess of a mind that I have in sports.
Man, you were shooting here, and you hit like here.
Am I just a dumbass? Which, is very possible and actually might be a real thing.
Your wrist position in neutral is actually not straight. Your wrist position in neutral is at a 15 to 20 degree incline.
How close was your relationship with Campbell?
He's personable. He's definitely a player's coach.
It's weird that someone would break up with you when there's so much cake.
Oh!
Are you proposing childbirth microtransactions?
All right. So let me tell you about the reproductive system.
If the first thing that you notice during somebody's orgasm is the smell,
there's some questions that need to be asked.
Untitled After Dark.
Hello, everybody. I look tired. I'm realizing this. I haven't actually looked in the mirror at all today, basically. And just now seeing this, I look tired. I think Finn can give us what today is, right?
Today is Thursday, December 6th, and you're watching the Untitled Underqualified Podcast live at twitch.tv/CrunchBar33.
In all fairness, it really isn't December 6th. I feel like this is just going to be a long-running joke that will last the entirety of the episode. But today is actually Thursday, August 26, 2021. It is 9:35 in the Central Time Zone. You heard from Finn. You can find him on Twitter at Skeedap. You can find the entire podcast on Twitter also at Underqualified. And you can also search Underqualified Podcast on YouTube, and you should be able to find every single episode we've ever done, even ones that weren't broadcasted live. That's the beauty of it. You get to see bonus footage too. Unfortunately, I didn't get around for my summer project. I didn't get around to doing it. What I wanted to do was to create a best of or explaining some of the episodes, but that never happened. But we have that what Finn calls a highlight reel now, which is the opening that if you're watching live or if you've seen on YouTube, you see it at all. It's kind of got highlights some really good moments from our streams too. It's not entirely greatest hits, but it'll do for now. I'm Jason. I believe I still am. My mind is a little bit mush because it's the first week of school, and holy crap, it's been busy for me. And I'll explain a little bit later on the show why it's been so busy. And also, in all fairness to us, because of how busy we are, we actually just hopped into Discord call about at 9:29. Remember, we go live at 9:30, so prepare to be as underqualified as possible this time. So Finn actually texted me while I was on campus earlier today. He's like, "Yo,"
at 7:30.
Was it? I have no idea what time it was.
It was so stupidly late, dude.
He's like, "Yo, we got a topic for tonight?" I'm like, "I haven't honestly thought about tonight. What do you got?" He's like, "I want to talk about motorsports." I was like, "Oh,
Weird thing.
I know, this is so... I mean, I know you follow people and are closely associated with some people on Twitter that actually follow motorsport and cover motorsports. I think they're like journalists for motorsports, aren't they?
Yeah. At Always Race Day and at CF Chang's 9. Check them out on Twitter.
Yeah, so you know people that are in motorsport. We actually had an episode where it opened up with the safety of NASCAR. That was earlier in the year because it was the 20th anniversary. We went live on the 20th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s death.
We planned that back when we started the podcast.
Of course. Everything we've ever done has ever been planned. And if anybody ever tries to tell you otherwise, tell them you're wrong and tell them that you should never open your mouth. Never mind. Don't do that. Don't be mean. Don't be mean. Be nice.
Just tell them that they're wrong, throw something at them and run away. It doesn't matter what it is.
You could do it the Finn way or you could do it my way. I can't control exactly what decision you make, so have fun. Have fun with every decision you make, and have fun with every consequences you may face for the decision you make. So, anyway, he told me that he's been actually learning about Formula If you watch Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Sacha Baron Cohen makes a good stereotypical French man. I think he's French. I have no idea what it is. But Formula One, he's been paying attention a lot to that or learning about it, and I'm intrigued. I want to know exactly what you've been learning and why you decided to learn about Formula One. Why did you pick motorsport, and why did you pick Formula One? What brought you to it?
So Formula One's really fast, like stupid fast. NASCAR's fast. Don't get me wrong. They go like what, 200 mile an hour?
Yeah, they can go 200.
Formula One's like stupid fast because they'll have like a 30-meter straight, and they're going like 300 down it, and then have to do a hairpin turn, and then go 300 mile an hour down.
Are you sure you're not looking at kilometers per hour?
Hey man,
300 kilometers per hour.
I don't even care.
I need to explain.
I see high numbers, and I go, "That's sick." No, I actually don't know how fast F1 goes.
I believe
I just like
300 kilometers.
I just watch the occasional F1 crash highlight video, and I'm all like, "I'd never do that."
Have you seen though, like how the cars basically explode when they crash?
Yeah,
it's kind of scary.
Which is actually pretty. It's scary, but it's also kind of sick because they're like the explosion looks like the safest explosion you've ever seen.
You know what? You're kind of right. You're actually kind of right.
It's like wow.
They look really bad.
There's no way he's hurt.
They look really bad, but I mean, how are you supposed to make an explosion not really bad? I mean, unless you consider your engine, because your engine is tiny explosions, controlled, contained explosions, but still, like, these things, like, because of carbon fiber, when carbon fiber breaks, it kind of just shatters, and, you know, these cars are carbon fiber cars, and even IndyCar, the American open-wheeled, or North American, I should say, North American open-wheeled racing series.
IndyCar.
IndyCar, yeah. Actually, my sister once went to the Indy 500, and there was a really big accident where somebody went airborne. She was in the infield, but she was able to grab a piece of the car because it shattered. And I still have it somewhere in my parents' house. I don't know where it is, but in reality, I was thinking about it as I learned more about carbon fiber. I really shouldn't have that piece because exposed carbon fiber, if you cut it or it shatters, it's actually really hazardous. Apparently, I've learned.
It's like porcelain. It's like worse porcelain. Have you ever dropped a porcelain plate?
Yeah, I have.
Have you ever like gone to pick it up and like for the next like 3 days your hands are just itchy?
Yeah.
Carbon fiber's like that, but worse.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And I guess
I'm pretty sure carbon fiber can kill you.
Yeah, I've actually heard that you're supposed to, whenever you're working with carbon fiber and actually cutting it and I don't know, fabricating.
Wear like welding gloves.
You're supposed to wear gloves and you're also supposed to wear a mask. Because you're not supposed to be breathing
and that's just
that
because
in.
of the dust.
You're not supposed to be breathing in because apparently that can cut the inside of your lungs. The little tiny carbon fibers can cut the inside of your lungs. That's insane. Like you wouldn't really think about it.
And that's somewhat similar to stone, aside from like what it does. You know, when you're working with any kind of material, really you should be wearing a mask if you're going to be cutting it, and there's going to be dust flying through the air because, that's just being safe. That's just being precautious.
Nah, I want to call 1-800 mesothelioma.
I mean, I do want to die. However, I want my death to be painless.
Then you shouldn't be watching Formula One then. Because Formula One can be. I don't know how invested you are in it. If you're not that invested, then you really don't care. Then
I like Ferrari cars, but I don't know exactly about their car.
Oh, you would have hated Ferrari last season because Ferrari was straight trash last season. Straight trash.
I've heard that they're trash a lot of years, but I've heard a lot of it has to do with their cars being super middle of the road and never an extreme, which tends to be, it's the safe option, but at the same time, if you don't have the drivers that can take advantage of the safe option, consistently,
let me tell you about how I learned about Formula One more recently. So I used to actually watch Formula One in the early 2010s, and this is back when Red Bull was the big team, and Sebastian Vettel was basically winning everything. And this is also when the cars were very high pitched, and I was always like, man, people the Europeans and the hardcore F1 fans, they love what they call the V10 era, the ones that had the very high like that one.
The early 2010s would have been when they still had skirts, so it was pretty much a level playing field at that point. Basically whoever the best driver is.
I wouldn't really know that much about it, in all honesty. I watched it, but I didn't really know exactly because this is going to be a weird thing to say, but if you actually know Formula One, this makes a lot of sense. Formula One is a very political sport.
Yeah.
Very political in the fact that not politics as in, they're very conservative, they're very liberal. No, it's very there's a lot of bad blood between teams. There's a lot of and they try to exploit. People try to exploit the rules as far as they can, and Formula One is a sport that is under the FIA. And I can't say what the FIA stands for because it's in French, and my French is awful. I know nothing about French. Just know that it is the governing body of world motorsports. Kind of like FIFA is the governing body of soccer or football if you're not in the United States.
So in other words, it's incredibly corrupt and people are getting arrested daily. Got it.
You might be right, actually. I'm not entirely sure. It may not be public, but it might be. It actually might be happening. And it's also, FIFA is also French, which is why I can't say it. So, FIA and FIFA, they're both French, I believe. And so the FIA has certain very, very, very strict rules on, everything, on how much money you can spend. That's new this season, how much money you can spend per team. They have rules on what you can put on the car, what modifications you can put on the car. They have rules on making
the shape of the car.
Yeah, the shape of the car. They have rules on making contact with other drivers on the track. They have rules about corner cutting.
Wheel size.
It's a very, very governed sport.
Very regulated sport.
Yeah, regulated. It's a very regulated sport. And the team principals is what they're called. They're not the team owners. They're team principals, basically the general managers of these teams. They try to dig up dirt on other teams, see what they're doing. And the big thing right now is Red Bull versus Mercedes. And in the late...
And I know why.
Go ahead. I want to.
So the big deal with Red Bull versus Mercedes is actually technically Red Bull versus Mercedes and Aston Martin, except that Aston Martin, I assume, sucks.
Aston Martin used to be... So in the early 2010s, it was Red Bull Renault. Red Bull Renault. Renault. It's a French automaker. I don't believe they sell any vehicles in North America. Maybe Canada, but I don't really know.
I've heard of the brand, but I don't know anything about any street models.
No, actually, Nissan in the, I believe, mid or late 2000s merged with Renault, so they actually kind of operate together.
They probably collaborate a lot on Formula E and like electric cars like that, because I know Nissan is very invested in what's the really big race, the really long one?
Le Mans?
Yeah.
Le Mans, which was actually this past weekend. Ferrari Le Mans. Actually, it's actually weird. It's weird to say this. Nissan actually hasn't been in like big motorsports in a few years. I haven't seen, not their GTRs. They stopped fielding the GTRs in their what they call the GT3 class of the World Endurance Championship. I like GT3 class racing because it's basically, okay, take your typical street car, your Corvettes, your they used to use the GTs but not anymore, your Porsche 911s, your Audi, no, they don't use Audis. Anyway,
Audi 500s.
your typical sports cars, but street legal. Take that car and turn it into a race car, but like actually keep the body and everything like that. Basically, it's just, I think even you have to keep the same engine. I'm not sure.
So it's basically NASCAR, but with the same engine.
It's basically NASCAR, but
with the same engine.
Yeah, I think it has the same engine of the actual manufacturer. I'm not entirely sure. It's basically NASCAR, but actually the cars actually look like what you would find on the road. Those cars.
Anybody driving around in a neon green race car going?
Those cars are actually like what racers want to be. But they're actually good cars.
Can we say racers?
I think we can, because racers.
I feel like we can, because it's kind of gone past what it originally meant, right?
Rice stands for race-inspired cosmetic enhancement, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's not where the name came from.
It's what it is.
I do appreciate that there's now an acronym.
Okay. I don't think Ricer has been offensive. I think Ricer's only offensive to racers.
It comes from the fact that you'd see a lot of imports turned into racers.
I could see that. Nobody really sees it that way though anymore.
I mean, come to small town America.
Ricer though is if you look at Rice, and I've seen Rice here in my college town, both in my rice cooker and also on the streets. But it's not so much the big American vehicles that were like modified, which these were big. Dodge Neon, Chevy Cobalt.
Yeah.
Those things, if you were around in the late 2000s paying attention to the streets, you'd find more modified Neons and Cobalts than you would Civics. People still modify their Civics to hell because, Honda makes vehicles that are heavily modifiable. You could probably take
and they're cheap.
You ever think Honda made a Type R Accord, an Accord in Europe? See, Honda just likes having their vehicles modifiable. And it's actually good to know that they're back in Formula One. They were absent for a while, for a very long time. But now they aren't really an actual race team. They just supply the engines. And so Red Bull is actually one of them that uses Honda engines.
And Red Bull is also a team that has a very high rake. For those of you that don't know what rake means, it is the angle that the car takes in reference to the ground. So a high rake has a very aggressive angle where the back end of the bottom of the car, I should say, is significantly higher than the front end of the car. If a car is completely parallel to the ground, it has zero rake. Mercedes-Benz is a team that has low rake. So back when you started watching Formula One, I'm pretty sure that they still had skirts, or skirts were legal at the time. And skirts created, basically they enhanced the amount of downforce that was able to be created. There was less low pressure air going in underneath the body of the car because nothing was able to come in through the sides. But those were banned because those cars had too high turning speeds. It was incredibly dangerous. Like, it genuinely is a good thing that they banned them, because otherwise there would have been many more crashes. If you notice, a lot of the crash compilations have skirts, or at least the ones that I've seen. I'm sure there's hundreds of crashes that I've never seen.
I like the point that you're making about early 2010s versus now, about how cornering speed and everything like that. Lap times,
and it gets even deeper with tires, because the 2021 tire rule change that happened.
Yep. Cars are going to be slower next season.
Oh yeah. Are we still in the 2020 season?
We're in the 2021 season. For 2022, that's when the new car comes out.
Oh well, yeah, but the tires changed this year.
Did they change this? I thought they changed next year.
Actually, the car already changed this year because there was a 2021 rule to rake. And here's how it changed. And this is why Mercedes has been struggling. Mercedes has been struggling because they typically run a longer car because they run a low rake, and it's legitimately the amount of downforce that you're able to generate. And I can't remember the exact term to use for all of the low pressure air that's coming in underneath the body of the car, but the amount of downforce that a car is able to generate is directly proportionate to area. So if you have a car that has a lower rake, what do? make it longer. You make it bigger. But if you have a car that has a higher rake, it already has a higher downforce that's being generated on it. Just by default, because there is more area underneath the car.
And
It's not the body of the car. I should have specified. It's not the body of the car that matters. It's the amount of area that is underneath the car, period. And Formula One made it so that essentially there's a small triangle of the backs of the side pod right in the back. You know, the side pod where a lot of the cooling happens.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where a lot of the cooling for a lot of the electronics happens.
There are little. Should we call them holes? Intakes? What do we call them?
There's air intakes on the side of every F1 car, and those are called the side pods. The side pods are used to cool mainly the electronics because those require the least amount of cooling as compared to, say, like a combustion engine, you know?
With the Halo, though, and for anybody who's not... Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up a picture of a current F1 car, and we're gonna examine.
I totally forget what the Halo is. The Halo is the top part above the engine, right?
The Halo goes above the driver's compartment.
So yeah.
And I feel like it would be best for me to pull up an image here for people to look at. So we need to actually look at a Formula One car here. So
6 Ford Fusion. I'm
gonna look at a 2021 car.
We got Circle Herc in the chat. Everybody welcome Circle Herc. I think our one and only moderator that isn't me.
Let's see, I'm trying to find just a side view of a car. Google Images is actually kind of failing me today.
I'm 120% not sure what the Halo is, because again, I'm a big fan of the physics, but a lot of the actual like stuff that racing fans would know, totally like lost on.
The Halo though actually is a physics component, and it actually does contribute. I mean, it does contribute to downforce too. I guess
everything to the shape definitely like has to do affects the physics of it. But like I'm gonna have to stuff like the Halo, and
I'm gonna have to use this image just because I can't find a very good. So let me switch this over here.
Share your screen.
Yeah. So let me do this here. Share screen. We're gonna share this one. Okay. So so you can see it, and then I'm gonna put this on OBS here.
Is it that black bar looking thing?
Let me do. All right. So let me disable the inner overlays. I really need to make a new scene for this. Wow,
you do,
because we rarely do we actually screen share though, so that's why it's
Untitled Underqualified.
Yeah. So
name stands.
All right, let's go over this. So the Halo is this. I don't know if you can see my mouse. I don't know
the black thing.
Yeah, it's this part here, and this was. And this was added to the cars after the death of a driver named Jules Bianchi. If you think of open wheel race cars, you think, I don't know if you ever thought about this, but when I was younger, I always thought about what happens if they flip, because their head is exposed.
Oh, it's a roll bar.
It's a roll bar, but it also acts as a protection against a flying wheel at you, because that actually happened. Debris hit a driver in the IndyCar series, and that killed him also. So it was a combination of deaths in open wheel racing that prompted the use of this Halo. IndyCar uses a similar thing, but they use I believe they call it the windscreen. And
oh, you mean the glass?
Yeah, it's not entirely glass, but it's protective.
Or whatever it is.
It's protective, so it's actually enclosed. So this is what the Halo
doesn't the top
is.
of their head like stick out?
No, their head doesn't stick out. So these things protect the driver's head. I'll see if I can bring up a IndyCar. Let me see if I can find one. Okay, here we go. Here's a good one. Let's open in a new tab. Hopefully it's a big. That's a terrible
Oh no, yeah, I see it.
But
I personally see it. Yeah.
There's a windscreen there that I think they call it the windscreen.
No, that's what I was thinking of. It looks like a slanted piece of glass where their head is kind of sticking out a little bit.
I'm not a driver. I've only driven go-karts in my own vehicle. I've never actually raced my own vehicle. Probably won't ever. But I've raced go-karts, which is not anything similar to anything like this. So I don't really know. I don't really know how, from the driver's perspective, which is better or not. From a fan or from just somebody's viewpoint, I would think that this little halo column, I think is what they call it, the little centerpiece here, would be in the way, wouldn't you think? I don't know if you can see this.
I'm not 100% sure about that. I genuinely would have to take a good look at a current car.
See, I can't judge it based on playing any of the F1 games in the past 2 or 3 years, because I think they implemented the Halo in 2018. Because it's not I've heard it's not an accurate representation of what the drivers actually see, because I've heard that the drivers can actually see around this column right here. But I don't know. In the game, it's really in the way. I keep it on just for immersion. But I don't know. From a just if you were thinking about it, wouldn't you want the windscreen just so you can see everything?
At the end of the day, it really comes down to whatever they say you're gonna do, you're gonna.
It's a safety. You have to have one because it's a safety issue. It's so weird for me to.
Sure.
It's weird for me to even look at Indy cars or Formula One cars just from 5 years ago. Because those were exposed, and you just think about, man, it would be so the way safety, it's a good safety equipment, and it's kind of equivalent to, nowadays, if you were to drive a car, it would be really weird for you to think about, okay, I'm gonna drive this car and it doesn't have a headrest, or it doesn't have it doesn't have a three-point seat belt. It just has a lap belt. It's so weird. Sure. That's the way I feel about it. It's just weird for me to even see it that way anymore. Just because for me, I get used to safety innovations, because in motorsport, safety needs to be the number one thing. You could have the most boring to watch motorsport, which is unfortunate, but as long as the drivers are safe. That's you can use crash barriers as a great example. Formula One used to use hay bales as crash barriers. Yes, you're right.
And then eventually they figured out that tires were the best way to go. Why? Because one, tires are rubber. Rubber causes you to bounce. Okay, that's a good start. But suddenly somebody crashes into tires, they have to be dug out. What do? You cover the tires. Now those covered tires almost always cause you to bounce. Yeah, your car explodes, but that's what the car's meant to do. It's like how cars today, street cars today are meant to crumple. It's a safety precaution. The car explodes. Suddenly I can't go anywhere. You're safe.
Let me explain the car exploding too part. Having the car come apart during a crash is actually a very good thing, because what it does is the more parts that are flying out, it's dissipating energy. And if you know anything about energy and being in a crash, if anybody's ever been in an accident, a crash, has everybody ever been in a crash?
You have to transfer the energy somehow. Yes,
and you don't want it to all go to you. Your body can only sustain a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of force that they call G's.
It's been said that no human has ever died from a crash, but lots of humans have been killed from the energy transferred upon impact of a crash.
And you want to dissipate as much energy as you can. And how do you dissipate as much energy as you can? You have parts flying off of the car. That's energy being dissipated. When things explode, when things come apart, it takes energy for that to happen. And what's that doing? That's dissipating energy. If the thing doesn't come apart, all the energy is just being contained within that area.
You have kinetic energy that has to go somewhere. So What do? You take that kinetic energy and you force it to go outwards. And eventually, because of how physics and the world works, that kinetic energy is slowed down by friction, creates heat energy, sound energy, whatever. There's tons of things that it will then create, because energy cannot be What, Jason?
It cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed.
Exactly. So you have to figure out a way to transfer it somewhere. Just like brakes. And F1 brakes are an incredible example of figuring out physics, thermodynamics, along with
and those things, man, like
transfer of energy.
Those things.
Holy shit! It's
they
insane.
Get
like
1,000 degrees Celsius. 1,000
up to 1,200. Think about it. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and they keep their brakes. If they had their way, they would keep their brakes at a minimum of 400 degrees Celsius. In fact, there are regulations stating that your brakes cannot go below a certain temperature. Otherwise, you're gonna be in danger, because you will be. Cooler brakes don't always equal better stops, because here's how it works, right? And obviously I don't have to explain this to you, but I'm explaining it to the average viewer, hopefully in a way that they can understand, because I'm back in my mode of teaching kids things, and I want to do this. But think about it like this. You have all this kinetic energy that has been created by your car going 300 kilometers an hour. That's really freaking fast.
I know this is just for the average person, but for me, hearing the word created and energy in the same thing, be careful with that wording. I know what you mean, but be careful with that wording.
Sorry, your engine has made your car go really fast, which has caused it to have a lot of kinetic energy.
The potential energy has turned. So there's I'm gonna go back to physics 1 for you guys.
The potential energy in the gasoline has been turned into thermal energy, which has been turned into kinetic energy, which has been turned into thermal energy again by the brakes, and that's how that works. This kinetic energy has to be transferred into something and has to create something through another energy source. And what is that going to be? It's going to create heat through thermal energy. So everybody knows how a brake system works. It's hydraulics. Or I should say most brake systems are hydraulics, because that's the easiest way to do it. Liquid cannot be compressed.
It's very difficult to compress liquid.
You cannot compress liquid. You will be hard stuck if you try to compress liquid. And so what happens is, you press the brakes. Suddenly you have a master cylinder. And F1 cars have 2 master cylinders. I don't know about street cars.
Street cars, I believe, only have 1.
But F1 cars have 2 master cylinders, because the back one also goes to a computer. And, street cars don't have a computer braking for them.
They do, actually. They do. Anti-lock brake systems are a computer.
Is it really?
Yes, anti-lock brake systems are a computer. And I'll briefly explain ABS. I'll briefly explain that. ABS works by having there are sensors in each tire, or not each tire, each wheel well, that basically say, hey, okay, the driver has input the brake, that has pressed the brake. The driver's pressed the brake. All right, I sense, say I'm the sensor, say the sensor is a human at this point. We're just making things really bare bones here. Oh,
careful with using that word.
I have to be careful with the wording. Yes, for intelligent people. Sorry, not intelligent people. Very, very
people that are nitpicky.
Yes, very, very smart people. But for the normal average person, say I'm the sensor, and okay, driver has pressed the brake. Oh, the driver is currently on the brakes. Hey, wheel, what are you doing? Are you spinning? Yes. Okay. Good. Keep spinning. All right. Rear tire. Are you spinning? No, I'm not spinning. You're not spinning. Should not be spinning, or you should be spinning. Basically, when you're under braking, you want your tires to spin and keep rolling. When they stop rolling, you slide. When you slide, you lose control of the car. And so what the computer does is basically says, okay, this wheel isn't spinning. I'm gonna pump the brakes. I'm going to, in a very, very short span of time, press on the brake, open the brake, press it, open, press, open, like on, off, on, off, on, off. That's what happens sometimes when you're on your brake pedal and you brake hard. Sometimes you will feel it basically pumping, or I don't know, not clicking. I don't really know how to describe it. A good word to describe it.
It chugs.
Yeah, you feel the thumping, like it just pressing against you. Also, that's what the ABS system is doing. It's a computerized system. But okay, proceed with your F1 master cylinders and
I could actually explain in a little bit more detail, which is actually good for the average person to understand what happens when your steering system doesn't work properly and you have too much braking in one area. But like so the back master cylinder goes to a computer. The computer takes off some of the stress from the hydraulic system that causes the pads to press onto the disc, because you have brake pads that press onto a brake disc, and that disc heats up a lot. And actually, in Formula One, the way that they dissipate that heat is they have holes that go to the center. So as it spins, it takes the air from the center, pushes it out through these holes, and therefore, quite literally, has its own cooling system. It's not foolproof. They still will overheat, and that is still a problem, but it is something that's very good. And it's kind of funny because you kept saying that it's very hard to compress a liquid. The only way that you can compress a liquid, like physically, is if there's a gas in there. If you
gases are really easy to compress.
It's true. Gases are very easy to compress, and the way that they get rid of gases in those systems is actually they have what's called they put the entire braking system at either 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock, because those have to be low to get the best brake in. But the bleed nipple, which ironically was also my nickname in cross country in high school, has to be high. And so you open that, you add fluid as you press the brake, and suddenly you have the air, the gas gone. And so that's something that's very important. But the basic thing is they have a computer, a very powerful computer, much more powerful than an anti-lock braking system. And they also don't have an anti-lock braking system.
You are correct. You are very correct.
They can lock. Like, their tires can completely stop spinning, and that's partially the point. When they brake, their front tires will spin considerably less than their back tires, because it's very typical for the weight coefficient, why did I say that? I feel like that's completely wrong. But the weight for an F1 car is distributed mostly towards the front, and that's by choice, because they will have more downforce being applied on the backside. And that's how it should be. Otherwise, the back of the car will lift up.
That's
what the spoiler is for.
I actually want to challenge you a little bit on that. I would think the weight would be more in the rear, just because the engine is in the rear. I would think that the
engine's in the middle.
Actually, you are correct. It's in the middle. It's right behind the driver. But I would think that there's more weight in the back, just because.
Not when it's driving.
Well, when it's driving.
When it's driving, there is more force being produced at the front by weight.
Yeah.
There's more downforce at the back.
Yeah,
and that's what the spoiler is for. Because if you're going to have part of the car lift up, you want it to be the front.
The front wing, though, also provides downforce.
It's true, and that's a huge thing, and that's actually what causes the air to go up instead of underneath. And that's what the front wing is for. If those of you that are watching this live or on YouTube saw the picture that Jason brought up, and that's an absolutely huge thing. But when you're moving forward, a lot of the force by weight will be caused or will be in the front, and so you need it. So typically, you'll see F1 teams set their braking to about 55% in the front, 45% in the back. Just like around there. It's not going to be exact every race track, but let's say that the back fails. The computer in the back fails. Suddenly, it's not able to brake as much. In the back, you're going to understeer every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you lock in the back, so for layman terms, if you lock in the back, you don't have the proper amount of braking in the back, right?
Yeah, if
No.
the rear tires will slide.
Right, yeah. So if the rear tires slide, you will spin, which would be too much braking in the back, not enough braking in the front. And I was completely wrong with what I was about to say.
F1 drivers can actually the cool thing about their cars.
You'll oversteer is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And you go on with your point.
Yeah, it's and actually I think all higher motorsports have this. By the way, I think hello Sheet App. You have said hi in the chat. I want to say hi to you also. And I'm assuming you're actually. I don't think you're saying hi to me. I think you're saying hi to Finn. But
she is, and she's also texting me because it's storming where she's at, and she is anxious when it storms.
It was actually very, very stormy earlier today. No Stormy Daniels though. But all higher motorsports, IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, World Endurance Championship, whatever top tier motorsport you want to think about, they have they can adjust. I'm going to call it adjustable brake bias. I don't know what the actual term is. What they can do is that they can control the braking force, or basically the amount of braking towards the front or the back tires. It's really cool. I'm not entirely sure how it works because I haven't really worked on vehicles or done much research on how it works, on how they.
I think it depends on each.
I think it
on each medium, really, because
I think
in F1 a lot of it has to do with the computer that does that. In NASCAR, I'm not sure if they're allowed to have a computer.
Yeah, they have computers in there, but
do they have that specific?
I think the way that NASCAR does it is that what they turn is a physical valve, so it directs more brake fluid towards the back brake lines.
Sense.
Towards
that makes sense.
I think that's how they do it. I'm not entirely sure though.
No, that would make sense. But
basically, F1 is the top tier of technology. F1
they really are.
F1 is, you have to be very, very. That's why they call. That's why drivers, they call their, what NASCAR would call crew chief or garage personnel. Formula One drivers call them the engineers because they are actual engineers. They are actually the ones working on the car, figuring out, all right, how do we get this much downforce in this corner? How do we get the car to turn this far? How can we get this much braking in the front without locking up the tires? How can we, how can we adjust the angle of the rear wing to maximize speed, but also make sure that the car can still turn? There's a lot of science and physics behind Formula One that there's a reason why I call Formula One the sport for rich people.
Oh yeah, I mean IndyCar is the direct North American equivalent, and it's already a sport for rich people.
Not necessarily, because I just recently watched a video by Donut Media.
Have you ever seen Ford versus Ferrari?
I haven't seen it yet.
It feels like the idea of rich people fighting rich people, and that was quite literally just to have a fast street car.
That was for Le Mans, though.
I mean, yeah, but that was back when Le Mans was like a lot of street cars.
That is true. Yeah, it was
or like street equivalent cars.
Le Mans back then was more about the finding the best manufacturer for racing, which has kind of been lost now, and it sucks that because when I'm watching motorsport, this is why I like NASCAR also. Is NASCAR, you figure out in the GT3 classes of the World Endurance Championship, you take these people aren't building the cars from scratch. Chevy is supplying their Camaro chassis to NASCAR. Ford is providing their Mustang chassis to NASCAR. Toyota is providing their Camry chassis to NASCAR. So it's actually the manufacturer. That's why NASCAR, while lesser known, actually has a manufacturer's championship. So Ford, NASCAR is about a lot less now, but that's just motorsport in general now. It's a lot less now.
Does Ford still use the Taurus for NASCAR, or is it a Mustang now?
It's the Mustang. They haven't used the Taurus since 2006, I believe, or 7.
I remember seeing a lot of Tauruses in a lot of videos that are used to talk about NASCAR.
Yep.
And it even ESPN will talk about NASCAR and they'll show Ford Tauruses in there. It's like,
but here's the thing: ESPN doesn't know anything about NASCAR anymore. They suck.
ESPN doesn't
kinda
know
just
anything
sucks.
about sports.
ESPN just sucks now.
Dude, ESPN has managed to get rid of 2 massive Nick haters. Max Kellerman's gone from First Take. The guy who goes, guy who was all like, "Oh, I expect the Knicks to get 3 wins this season," and then goes, "If they don't get a first round playoff win," dude, he's not even a boxing guy. Honestly, I follow boxing. He's not even a boxing guy. His analysis is garbage. He's a good reporter for boxing, but he'll throw in his opinion, and it's like, what? He was talking about Mayweather versus Pacquiao. He goes, if Mayweather wins, it is an embarrassment to Pacquiao. It's like Pacquiao was injured. And then afterwards he goes, oh man, it was an incredible fight. Pacquiao put up a great thing. And then Stephen A brought up that he was injured and he goes, you couldn't even tell. Yeah, you could. Pacquiao looked old. He looked slow.
Let's get back on track here though, because we can go on a rant about ESPN.
No, ESPN sucks.
We can actually do an entire probably an hour and a half
ESPN.
On ESPN. That's a topic for another day. But I wish this still was more of a thing, more of a presence in motorsport. Is that let's find the best manufacturer. And that's why I was always looking forward to Le Mans, 24-hour Le Mans. So for those people who don't know what the 24-hour Le Mans is, a 24-hour endurance race in France that takes place in France. Probably one of the biggest racing events in the entire world.
You can have 2 cars, right?
You
can 2 cars per team, right?
I'm not. I think it might be 2. You might be right. It might be 2 cars.
It's at least 2, but I think it's 2.
Yeah, imagine.
Because I remember the first electric car that tried to, actually make it at Le Mans, and they had 2 cars, and I want to say that it was a Nissan. Yeah, it was a Nissan. Yeah, because it was a huge thing. Popular Science did a 6-page article on it. Because I remember that, and so that's the only thing, reason that I could even think of that.
Now that you say it, I think this actually was that happened. I actually remember hearing. I don't know if they did fully electric or it was just hybrid, but hybrid is
the Nissan one was fully electric. It was the first fully electric car at Le Mans. It was back in 2011-ish, 2012, somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Somewhere right within that 3-4 year area.
But anyway, I just wish that, especially Le Mans didn't have them last year due to the pandemic, but in the past probably 3 races. So that would be 2021 was it? So 2021, 2019, and 2018. You've seen the number of manufacturers in the top class because this race has multiple classes of races. I think it's 4 classes. The top class, which is prototypes. They are literal prototypes. They look like race cars. They are built kind of like Formula 1 cars. I don't think they're as expensive though. Formula 1 cars are ridiculously expensive. By the way,
that's what the Nissan car competed in, was the prototype class, because obviously it's a prototype.
There's that plaque. So they called it. They renamed it the hypercar class this year. I don't know. I really don't know what it means, but they renamed it the hypercar.
Probably because they're better.
I don't know. I mean, yes, they are. They're top class.
Better.
They are the top class. They beat everybody. They demolish everybody, which is to me is astonishing. That in I think '95, the McLaren F1 won the entire thing. It won the entire thing. It beat
a McLaren
F1,
let alone the McLaren F1.
A McLaren F1 won the entire race. You could look this up,
dude.
It beat the prototypes, and I'm gonna get to what class the McLaren F1 it was in also. So there's the prototypes, the big fast prototypes. Then there's what they call them, the LMP2s, which stands for Le Mans Prototype 2. They're just lower powered prototypes. And then you get to the class below it. That's where you get to the GT3 class. but I call it the GT3. I don't think it's called the GT3 class
So like
anymore.
the supercars.
No, GT3 is street cars.
So
Those
it's
are
not. So it's not like a Ferrari, a Lamborghini kind of thing.
Yeah, they're Ferraris. They're Ferraris. Ferrari. Whatever the Pista. I don't know. Ferrari 458 Italia. The
Italian series.
Yeah, the 450. The Ferraris. The Mercedes AMGs. I don't know what their
Who
sports
knows
cars.
with Mercedes? Mercedes is all like, the Mercedes 5092 XMB
SLS. I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, they're stupid.
So there's that. The Lamborghini Gallardo. That's what they field now. Chevy does the Corvette.
So it is supercars. It's supercars.
Is that what?
Because supercars are street cars.
I don't know if I'd call those supercars though, because when I
Well,
think
supercars are those brands that are above muscle cars. Because you got the muscle cars, and then you've got the ones that are high powered, but they're not like, the big beefy sounding things. They just are high powered. Corvettes. Lamborghinis.
I don't know though. I consider
some Audis.
Here are the supercars I consider. I consider the McLaren F1 to be a supercar. I consider the Bugatti Veyron to be a supercar. I consider the Pagani Zonda and the Huayra to be supercars.
Those are in there. Those are in there for sure. But then there are more affordable supercars as well.
I guess if we want to call it an affordable supercar, you can call it that.
Because there's multiple levels. You got the affordable muscle cars in like the Dodge Challenger, and then you have all the way up to Hellcat.
The Hellcat, by the way, is a stupid vehicle. I said it.
Hellcat is a very stupid vehicle. I think it's also a Challenger.
It is,
which is why it's so stupid.
They have a Challenger and a Charger Hellcat. I have no idea what Dodge is doing right now, but
Dodge is just like the Dodge brothers.
I like Dodge. I like Dodge because I
drive a Dodge.
I love their view on on cars, but at the same time, they're idiots because they make unreliable cars also. So there's that, the GT3, and then there's like the GT3 amateur class, which is basically rookies, but they're running the same kind of vehicles, except these vehicles have ABS. They have traction, or not ABS. Sorry, the GT3s have ABS also. The GT3 and so do the GT3 amateurs, but the amateurs also get traction control. So there's differences in that. It's basically a rookie class. But that's what so going back to like 90, I believe is 95, the 95 Le Mans. McLaren F1 beat the prototypes. They were in the GT3 class. They beat the prototype 2s. They beat the what they were, I think, called the LMP 1s at the time, the prototype 1s, the fastest ones. I still don't know how they did it. That nobody has done it since.
It's crazy, man. That's absolutely insane.
Because with that race, again, it's 24 hours, and what they make you do, I believe it's for every driver swap, because of course one person can't just complete the entire race by themselves. They just even if they could, it's against the rules. You have to have I think they have a minimum of 3 drivers. But whenever they do driver swaps, they also make sure that, hey, you got to turn the car off too. So you turn the car off, and then they have to restart it. So it's when they say endurance race, it's really an endurance race. It's an endurance race of driver and machine. You have to make sure that, and that's what I liked about it more in the past than I do now. I'm not trying to sound like a boomer or anything like that, but
you definitely sound like an old head. You totally sound like,
I'm really not trying to say it, because I do like progress, but at this point, I don't know what progress is being made, because you're seeing less of the manufacturers. And because even Toyota, Nissan, Mercedes and Audi would all make their own prototypes and enter the prototype class. And so that was like, oh man, these people are actually building these cars and they are going to race them. Let's see which manufacturer is the best one. Toyota was always the worst because they would always break down on the last lap of 24 hours. They would break down on the last lap of a 24-hour race. They went 24 hours but couldn't make it to the finish line.
They went literally 23 hours and like X minutes.
They went 23 hours and like 59 minutes.
That sucks.
Multiple times.
Does Mercedes have a Le Mans car?
They used. I mean, they run the
Because
whatever.
they really should. Because I tell you what, man, Mercedes has been struggling when it comes to. Mercedes has actually been struggling quite a bit, and I'll tell you why. So they're a low rake car, and the new regulations for rake.
Oh, going back to F1.
Oh yeah. And obviously, like F1 shapes are the shapes that are probably going to do the best at Le Mans, because you're going to get the furthest in the least amount of time.
Reliability would be an issue, though. Reliability would be an issue for that,
and especially with Mercedes, because Mercedes is a manufacturer who struggles in traffic. Do you know why they struggle in traffic?
Because their drivers suck.
No, Mercedes drivers are actually pretty good.
Actually, BMW drivers are worse. Never mind.
Mercedes drivers are actually pretty good, and so when they are in traffic, they're not good, and they're not good to no fault of their own. They're not good because of their car, because Mercedes cars are awful when they actually have to draft. Because you're intaking air from another car.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned...
We just talked about cooling.
I'm glad,
right?
No, I'm really glad you mentioned intake, because I actually saw a YouTube video of a guy who was documenting his journey about... He used to drive a Ford Fusion, and then he got his dream car, which was a Mercedes. And then, like, within a year of driving it, it died on him. You know how it died? It
cracked the radiator?
No, it hydrolocked. And hydrolocking means water got in the engine. And remember what you said about liquids and compressing? Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You were going to break something. And you know how it happened? They hydrolocked by driving in heavy rain.
Oh my god. So literally just like, hey man, I'm just driving here. Nature's happening.
If you were to drive where Sheet App is right now, that's how that happened. That is an embarrassment. Because you could think, oh yeah, if somebody drove through a flooded plain, of course, that's their fault. But driving in the rain and your car died because it took on too much water into the air intake, and it came into the engine, and now it's like, all right, here, I'm the pistons. Oh, here's water. Okay, I'm gonna stop. All right, you try to crank the engine again. I can't go anywhere. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's awful. That's awful.
Yeah, so reliability would be a very big problem for Mercedes in a 24-hour race.
Yeah, sounds like it. And it
rains a lot.
I know. If I remember correctly, Ferrari does have at least something at Le Mans.
Yeah, they used to be a powerhouse in the early 60s.
I know that at the very least they have something still at Le Mans, whether it be. No matter the class, they're at least trying to do something. But if you look at Mercedes, Mercs are best known, in my opinion, Mercs are best known in Europe. And in Europe, they're best known, and this is after talking to multiple Europeans, Mercs are best known for F1. Because they used to be so good before the new rules when it comes to body shape, and they're longer. They were able to actually produce more overall downforce than a Red Bull. Red Bull's killing it right now when it comes to just pure performance, solely because of the new rake rules. I don't know how they're actually doing race-wise, but they're just killing it right now.
Their number one driver, Max Verstappen, or Verstappen, however you want to pronounce his last name, is leading the Drivers' Championship. Somebody's actually beating Lewis Hamilton for once.
Lewis Hamilton drives for who?
Mercedes.
Okay.
Lewis Hamilton has won 7 consecutive, or no, sorry, not 7 consecutive, a total of 7, and he's won.
So he's the Armstrong.
He's the Armstrong. He's the Michael Schumacher. I don't know if you've heard of Michael Schumacher, another famous Formula One. Who's another? The New York Yankees of the late.
He's the New York Yankees.
The New York Yankees of the late 2000s.
Knows the Yankees.
Yeah, there you go.
He's the Yankees of the 30s.
Of Formula One. Of Formula One.
It's
in driving.
But it's Mercedes performance-wise, super suffering. And anytime their drivers end up in the field, in the middle of the field for whatever reason, their drivers are good. I don't feel like anybody
Mercedes?
can deny this.
Oh, yes.
Even me not knowing it, even me watching the small bit of the sport that I have, I know that they're very good. And I know that there's very little parity in the sport, partially because of the drivers. The drivers are who they are, and they're good for a reason. They drive for who they do for a reason. But at the same time, their manufacturer, their team that they drive for, is a huge thing, because Mercedes has the worst cooling system in the sport. And I will challenge anybody who knows more about this sport to prove me wrong, mainly because I'd love to be proven wrong and actually learn more about it. But at the same time, how many top teams suddenly go from being, absolute the top, they're always leading the field, to holy shit, Lewis Hamilton, who has won 7 titles, is losing, and we don't know why. If you don't know why, you do know why.
People listening on Spotify and the podcast can't see me grinning here. I'm grinning because I actually have an example. You said who can go from the top and just be straight bottom. You've watched any of a Formula One Drive to Survive on Netflix, you will quickly realize, or if you are a new fan and you've watched it, you will know. If you are an old fan, like you watched Formula One in like the early 2000s and still now, you will also know. Williams F1. Have you ever heard of Juan Pablo Montoya?
I've heard the name.
He's a
name.
motorsports driver. He started out in Formula One, then he went to NASCAR, and then he went to IndyCar. And I think he's currently in IndyCar right now.
IndyCar has more parity than F1, and I've enjoyed watching IndyCar way more than I like watching F1.
Dude,
I will say that.
F1 drivers are moving to IndyCar.
Jimmy Johnson moved to IndyCar. Jimmy Johnson used to be the only NASCAR driver that I ever liked. Why? Because he went from having no beard to a beard to no beard, and he was always very fun, very fun for that reason.
Jimmy Johnson is the equivalent of like basically Lewis Hamilton right now. Also, 7 championships. But
Jimmy Johnson is the equivalent of quite literally Kobe Bryant. He did it, and you know he did it.
And now he sucks.
Yeah, very much like Kobe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, rest in peace, Kobe.
You moved to a different sport, but
yeah, but no, if IndyCar definitely has more parity, but like Williams F1, Juan Pablo Montoya was their driver that I know. Williams F1 won a championship in, I believe, 1997. I could be wrong. I very could be wrong. They won the drivers and I believe they won the Constructors Championship too. There are 2 championships in Formula One. There's the Drivers Championship and there's the Constructors Championship. The Constructors Championship is basically, hey, you get point because each team has 2 cars. Even though the driver could be, hey, he's gotten the most amount of points, your second driver could also have a significant amount of points also, and they add the 2 points, and that goes to the constructor, the team, basically. Williams was at the top of their game. Williams was at the top of their game in the early 2000s. In the past 5 or 6 years, maybe even more, they've been at the very bottom, scoring 0 points. 0. You could score 0 points in Formula One because only the top 10 scored points. Not a single driver during like 2 of those seasons, I believe it was, scored a single top 10. So when you talk about teams falling apart, Williams is the big example. Williams was so bad because Williams comes from the person who started the name, and then their descendants ran it. Williams was so bad that there's absolutely nobody from the family in it running it anymore. That's sad. That's honestly sad. Like
it's literally a Ferrari running Ferrari still. And I don't mean the company. I mean the race team.
You're correct.
That's bad because the Ferraris said that they were going to stay out of the Ferrari race team.
And they haven't won a world championship since Michael Schumacher. Or no, Kimi Räikkönen, I believe it was. Kimi Räikkönen in 2007. That was the last time. That was the last time
not at the bottom.
That was the last time Ferrari won a Formula One championship from any of the
drivers. As long as Ferrari's not at the bottom, I'm sure they're happy, because at the end of the day, Ferrari's still selling a
of course.
lot of cars.
Oh yeah, people, the casual, the layman,
they know Ferrari.
They know Ferrari, and if they're gonna watch Formula One, they're gonna see the red car and be like, I'm a fan of that car. Why? Because it's a Ferrari.
It's either Ferrari or Red Bull. I can guarantee you.
Nah, I would say Mercedes now, because clout.
Ooh.
Clout.
Red Bull has more clout in America than Mercedes does.
Worldwide, though, Mercedes.
Have you ever heard of Tyler Ninja Blevins? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I haven't heard anything about he's done anything he's done with Red Bull, but
he's literally sponsored by them.
He's on.
Yeah, that's who like his sponsor is. He doesn't have a team. He has Red Bull.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, hey man, guy makes so many millions of dollars a year.
He caters more to the kids, though. Kids.
He did. Now he doesn't anymore. He's back to being Toxic Ninja again. Because Fortnite's dead.
No,
now he plays League of Legends, and his topless wife brings him sandwiches unasked for. How's your day going? You probably didn't see that tweet, did you?
No. I'm sorry.
Dude,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Tyler Ninja Blevins. You always have to say that full thing when you refer to him.
I don't even know if I want to continue this conversation.
Tyler Ninja Blevins has gone off the rails in the past year. It started with the NFL kicker tweet, where it's like, I don't know how NFL teams sign kickers that just miss field goals. Like, it can't be that hard. And then he became a living questionnaire. What was your favorite video game that got you into gaming? Mine was Halo. Okay, yeah, we know you were a Halo pro, dude. You played for Cloud9. Cool. Good shit. And then he's back to being Toxic Ninja on Twitch, where he's yelling at kids in League of Legends. But he is the face of Red Bull when it comes to the domestic audience. And if you tune into Formula One, I can almost guarantee you will recognize, or I shouldn't say you, but the average person will recognize two names. Ford versus Ferrari and Batman beat those Cilia.
Yep. Circle Hurt just put in chat, I saw Ford versus Ferrari. I would do it in his voice, but I can't do his voice, unfortunately.
No, I'll do it in his voice. I saw Ford versus Ferrari and Batman beat those silly Italian horse in the Joker.
That is nothing like Circle Herc, and you probably...
we will let him be the judge.
You have probably insulted our audience. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate...
We lost our one viewer.
Actually, we got 5 at the moment, currently. Which is,
Damn,
still...
Look at us, we're popping off.
Considering that we're talking about... okay, I guess that is...
It's like I'm looking at...
Looking, but
Who knows what's up, man?
But hey, that sight is different than sound, so
the dude knows what's up.
Considering that we're talking about motorsport, though, and most of your Twitter audience doesn't care about motorsports, and most of the people that I know, actually, most people don't know me, so it doesn't really matter. So considering that we have 5 years concurrently right now is an achievement for now.
Most people don't care about motorsports in America, mainly because it's just NASCAR has such a It's alienated its audience by a large margin.
You are
genuinely.
True. You're actually true with that. The amount of people last season. When the season got canceled, and this made national news. Did you hear about the noose? Do you know about the noose incident?
Do I know about the news? I mean, I've heard of it.
Not news. The noose. Noose.
Oh, with what's his name, Bubba?
Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace. So he is NASCAR's, I believe, only African American
driver right now.
And he
drives for Michael Jordan. He drives for Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan owns a NASCAR team.
Is he a part owner or the owner?
He's part owner.
I was about to say, there's no way that he's a full owner of anything except for Charlotte.
But he actually does pay attention to NASCAR. He actually has. He watches NASCAR and goes to the races.
Well, he's from the South.
Yeah, but anyway, the amount of people that were, because this whole thing, it was a really big deal. Like it was a picture of it was a literal noose. Now, during the time period during the pandemic, I want to make this clear as you hear my chair continuing to break more. The drivers were not allowed to go back in the garage area for COVID mitigation efforts. It was a crew member. In the Formula One world, they call these people an engineer, but it was a crew member found this, what they perceived to be a noose, and it was the garage pull rope. I don't know if anybody has garage pull ropes anymore, but
oh yeah, most people with automated garage doors do, just because that's the
safety mechanism. Yeah, if you can't,
because
if the garage door goes off.
we just got our entire automated system replaced, and so we had used the pull rope for months.
Yeah. So okay, so you know it. The pull rope was tied into a noose for why? Who knows why? And this happened at a track in good old Alabama.
Tuscaloosa, right?
No, the track was Talladega, but I don't think the track is actually in Talladega, Alabama. Like actually the city of it. Just like how Chicagoland Speedway is not in Chicago, it's actually in Joliet.
Well, it's still in Chicagoland.
It's actually in Chicagoland. What is another one I can think of?
It's kind
Indianapolis. Indianapolis Motor Speedway is not in Indianapolis. It's in Speedway, Indiana. So
it's kind of like how Arkansas plays a game that's not in Little Rock, that is in Little Rock. Sorry.
So
because what is it? The university's in. I
have no idea. Razorbacks.
The university's in another town, but they play one game a year in Little Rock, which isn't where the university is. It's weird as shit. It really is.
But so going back to this story that happened in Alabama last year for NASCAR, it was a crew member. I'm trying to hammer that in your guys' heads. Crew member found it. Drivers aren't allowed in the garage. I'm going to repeat that. Crew member found it. Driver not allowed in the garage area. Crew member found this in the garage area. It sparked outrage by normal people, and so and also a lot of the drivers were disturbed by this, and it was the driver because it happened to the only African American driver in NASCAR. News outlets picked it up and everything, and everybody was basically the morning of the NASCAR race before it actually happened, the Sunday morning. Every driver stood in solidarity, unity, arm in arm down the long pit road because it's a super speedway. It's a 2.66 mile speedway. Down the long road, basically just to show unity, It turns out, this was really bad. It was so bad that the FBI was called in to investigate. Why was there a noose there? Why was there a rope tied into a noose for the only African American driver? It turns out after an investigation that it had been tied that way the season before. Also, there was video evidence that it was that way. Again. It wasn't, and the garages are randomly assigned. So Bubba Wallace was not in that same garage last season. Why was it tied into that way? I have no clue. I really have no clue. But basically, okay, we get it. All right, it was a weird accident that for some reason happened and shouldn't have happened. But keep in mind, again, I'm going to hammer it into your head. A crew member found it. Drivers were not allowed in the garage. After this news comes out that it was a false alarm, you guessed it, the hardcore NASCAR people are like, oh, this dude's just virtue signaling. Oh, he's just doing it because he's black. Oh, man, he's Bubba Smollett, faking it and everything. He's just doing it to play off of the Black Lives Matter movement. Blah, blah,
Bubba
blah, blah.
Smollis.
I don't know what they were calling him, dude. They had some weird nicknames for him. I don't know. They really had some weird nicknames. You can just look it up on Twitter.
I could totally see it. The hardcore NASCAR crew is definitely the same crew that would be like, my rights are being disturbed by masks.
It's bad. And this year Also, what happened, I want to make this clear too. Also, what happened during the pandemic last year was Kyle Larson. You know, everybody in Iowa knows who Kyle Larson is.
I know who Kyle Larson is.
People in Motorsport in Iowa know. People in Knoxville, Iowa know who Kyle Larson is. Really good.
People who like dirt racing.
Excellent dirt driver. Excellent dirt racer.
I would argue, not knowing anything about, NASCAR and all that stuff, I would argue that outside of Formula One, because I believe that Formula One has the best drivers in the world for what they do.
I would agree with that.
I firmly believe that Kyle Larson is the best race car driver outside of Formula One. And it does not matter if it's asphalt or dirt.
I would also agree with that, Sammy. He's a very, very, very good driver.
Because he does win. I don't remember what the lowest level of NASCAR is. He literally finishes top 10. He finishes top 10 in those races, which are the only ones that he's really allowed in anymore, apparently.
Incorrect.
As well as, whatever the lowest level he's allowed in.
He races Cup.
Does he?
Yeah, he races the Top Series, and he actually won like 4 races in a row. He won an entire month's worth of races.
Because Connor Ferguson would be able to explain it way, way, way better than I can. But he wins every dirt race he races.
Yes.
It's literally not fair that he's allowed to race dirt races.
Well
as he'll go into a NASCAR series and he'll finish top 10, which is absolutely insane. With a blood alcohol level of like what was it like? 0.08.
I don't know anything about this.
His BAC was like 0.08 when he was leaving 0.05 I think when he was leaving, after celebrating his win at Knoxville Nationals. He didn't drive. He's a smart dude, smart enough.
Yeah, and I'll get to that. And I really want to get to this. Kyle Larson last season, when motorsports stopped, they decided to do esports. What Kyle Larson did during a non-televised, it was non-televised, but another driver was streaming it on Twitch. He decides to go, "Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can't hear me? Hey, gamer word."
Ooh, yeah, saying the gamer word's not good. But I will say this: he's behind Morgan Wallen when it comes to saying the gamer word. So.
But guess how many fans he got from saying the gamer word?
They definitely went up.
All the people that hated Bubba Wallace for quote virtue signaling with the news incident did not have a problem and actually enjoyed it when Kyle Larson dropped the gamer word. As a result of Kyle Larson dropping the gamer word, his team at the time, Ganassi Racing, I don't know if it's Ganassi Racing or Ganassi Motorsports,
dropped them.
Fired him, yeah, because one, his primary sponsor, Time Credit One Bank, said, we can't deal with that. Target said, no, I'll pass. Chevy.
He was driving the Target car?
He was driving Target also.
Dude, I literally have the Target car as like a little itty bitty thing from a box of Cheerios, I think.
It depends on what year, because if it's like late 2000s, early 2010s, you might have Juan Pablo Montoya.
It was, it wasn't Kyle Larson. Definitely wasn't Kyle Larson, but it was, I want to say it was a box of Lucky Charms. No, not Lucky Charms, because Lucky Charms had their own car. Definitely Cheerios. Definitely a box of Cheerios. Back when, whatever the company that produces those.
General Mills.
Yeah, General Mills. General Mills back in the day used to sponsor a lot of NASCAR teams, I know. And they had, I think Cheerios had a car too. It was blue and it was light blue, I think.
They had Cheerio cars in the late 90s. I don't think they had one in the early 2000s also. Number 43 card.
43, yeah, it was light blue. Mm-hmm. Light blue and
John Andretti.
Yellow. But the Target car was in there because it I think they had a partnership with General Mills or something like that. So they were like, yeah, you can throw that in there. And I had that car. And Kyle Larson drove the Target car?
He drove the Target car from
wild.
2016, I want to say, 2016 to early 2020. And that's when he dropped the Game Award. And so all of his sponsors were like, even Chevy, the manufacturer he drives for, Chevy was like, yeah, I'd really want to not sponsor this guy.
Yeah, I feel that.
So he was basically pushed out of NASCAR, but all the hardcore, the super, super, super hardcore, let's call them traditionalists, supported him all the way through and loved him and didn't see a problem with what he did. And we're just like, yeah, he needs to get back into NASCAR. NASCAR's pushing this Bubba Wallace guy too far. They're pushing him, like a WWE push. They're pushing him to the top. Like, man, they're pushing this Bubba Wallace guy to the top. He's no talent. Game Award, because they probably would. Dude, people call Lewis Hamilton the Game Award.
Yeah.
And these are actual Europeans.
I believe
these are Europeans, because, racism exists everywhere. Why?
Wait, they say that gamer word?
They do.
I didn't know that Europeans actually said that word. That's crazy.
There was the British, after the British Grand Prix, or Grand Prix, I don't know how you actually say it.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah, there was a Formula One incident that happened between Red Bull and Mercedes. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
British Grand Prix happened this year, yeah?
Yep, it actually happened about. Well, they're by the way, if you wanted, since we're talking about Formula One, Belgian Grand Prix this Sunday. So there you go. There's something for you to watch.
I'm not gonna watch it.
There's something for you to watch. You don't want to know what happens with Red Bull and Mercedes between them. You don't know
Red Bull's gonna beat Mercedes. I can guarantee it because Mercedes
Red Bull's a better car. Red Bull has a better car.
Mercedes. Oh yeah, and it's entirely because of rake. Literally that one thing on top of the new tire changes. I haven't even talked about the tire changes. Oh my god, back in 2018. Yeah, back in 2018, they said in 2021 season we're going to start seeing tire changes. They made all of the tires smaller in the front. Okay, not a big deal. But then they said that the tire diameter itself in the back had to be also smaller. So the tire is just as wide, but it's in the back, thinner in the front. And then in the back, the tire is smaller, so the wheel is bigger, which actually helps Pirelli quite a bit. Pirelli, because Pirelli has the contract. Everybody knew that Pirelli was going to have the contract 3 years ago, apparently. Learned that. I'm like, who the fuck is Pirelli? Pirelli can now use that to actually market their performance tires better, which the funniest joke that I've ever heard about tires was, I feel bad for the Pirelli PR guy because he's going to have to answer questions such as, will this tire wear down after 100 kilometers on my BMW just like it does on that Mercedes F1 car?
They probably already get issues like that because there was actually a joke about Pirelli. This was back in the early 2010s when I was still watching Formula One. It was the British Grand Prix. Oh, look at that, British Grand Prix, Silverstone. A lot of Pirelli, because they used Pirelli back then. They've been using Pirellis for a while. I think the last tire manufacturer they had was Michelin and Bridgestone. But
Bridgestone's European, I think, right?
Yeah, Bridgestone's European. Yeah. Firestone is a division of Bridgestone, but it's the American version. Just like how Acura
I
is
do like Firestone. I like Firestone tires. They're nice. They're not what I would choose personally. I would choose Goodyear personally, but
the last Firestone tires that I've had did not do well.
Well, you know what? Maybe you just suck at driving.
Under normal driving conditions.
So in other words, you curb checked a lot, and no, I'm kidding.
I'm a good driver. Come on, good responsible driver. No, I was the one who took you to the parties to get drunk.
Well, one.
Okay, one party to get.
I don't think I drank at that party actually.
I took you to Hilton also sometimes.
Yes.
But anyway, there was this joke that happened because during the British Grand Prix, a lot of Pirelli tires exploded or popped, or what in Formula One terms they call it. Oh, he's got a puncture. They call it puncture. And Top Gear, back when Top Gear was good, they said, you know the Stig, right? If you've seen Top Gear, the Stig.
I've seen some Top Gear.
He's the guy with the
Never been a big fan of Top Gear personally.
Any Top Gear past 2016 is not going to be good, but he's the guy with their basically dedicated racing driver. He doesn't have a personality. They just call him the Stig, and he was like Jeremy Clarkson made a joke about it. Says some say the Stig used Pirelli condoms and has 8 children now because of how many tires popped and everything and had holes in them. But
that's funny.
But anyway, yeah. So Formula One, since you were on top of it, they end their summer break this weekend. So there you go. If you want to watch some in the U.S., you're not going to like this, but in the U.S., F1 has a contract with ESPN. But it's not only ESPN is broadcasting it. They use the actual official F1 feed. So basically the same feed that the Europeans see also. So it's actually good commentating and good coverage. And people that know what they're talking about.
But the thing with all of that, the front tires are going to see a lot more wear, a lot quicker, because they're thinner, which means that they're not going to be able to diffuse the heat as well. So they're going to get hotter faster. So that means that they're going to oxidize faster, which means that they're going to wear faster. Easy, right? That's very basic stuff. But then it's the back tires that make everything interesting in Formula One. The back tires are what really kill drivers. I genuinely believe that after watching so many things where it ends up that they understeer coming off of a curve where they have to go over a curb. Right? The curbs in F1 are small. And if I remember correctly, I read that the curbs in F1 are mostly to let the driver know that they are there. They're not to create a differentiation between a street and a sidewalk or a street and the edge. It's to let the driver know, hey, you need to make sure that you're watching where you're going so that you're still on the track.
Yeah.
How true that is?
Curbs are there to basically say, hey, you can run over these at your own risk, because in open-wheeled cars, from my experience in simulators, I have never actually driven an actual go-kart over a curb or anything like that, but I've driven a go-kart over a curb in Gran Turismo, which is enough of a simulator, not too much, but enough of a simulator to know that, hey, if you have a very low suspension car driving over this bumpy curb, you're going to have a bad time.
And that's where the tire size comes in, as opposed to wheel size. The bigger the tire, the squishier it's going to be.
Correct.
Literally by definition. That's how it is. My girlfriend says that she is sleepy and she is going to bed. I love you, dear, and I wish you good night. I'll call you after we're done. But
oh, he said he loves her. Oh, can we get an aw in chat, please?
Can we get some hearts in chat, boys?
Can we get some donuts and whatever?
But the thicker the tire itself, the squishier it's going to be, which legitimately takes a lot of the load off of suspension. You can have stiffer suspension, which technically a stiff suspension is good. And people that know and care about cars and motorsports more than I do know about this. I haven't 100% learned about the physics of suspension and how it really affects the car. But I do know that the stiffer the suspension to a point, the better it is.
Let me tell you this. A stiff suspension is good for a racetrack that is very flat and smooth.
So an F1 track.
F1 track, you want a stiff suspension.
Okay, so to a point, the stiffer the suspension, the better. Obviously, if you have a suspension that's just like a rod, it's not good.
No.
Duh. But so since the tires are getting thinner and the wheels are getting bigger, you have to have a softer suspension, and that's going to it's going to help engineers quite a bit, because the tweaks that they make are going to be considerably more substantial and they're going to feel more substantial. And that makes their job better. Doesn't make it easier, makes it harder, but it makes it better, in my opinion.
Circle Herc, I'm sorry I don't have Nintendo Online, but I can. I'm pretty.
Oh, dude, sick. Yo, Circle Herc, DM me your Nintendo ID, dude. Let's hit it.
My Nintendo ID is probably just the same name as my channel name.
It's a friend code. Yo, DM me your friend
okay,
code, man.
mind.
Yo, everybody DM me your friend code on Twitter @SkeetApp, and let's freaking ride on Mario Kart, dude. Let's bomb some sake and knock some Vosh, dude.
You know, when you were talking about F1, you're talking about F1. I was on the bus when you told me that. You know, I was on campus when you said that if you have a topic for today, and then I was on the bus when you said that you want to talk about F1. I was completely shocked, like Pikachu shocked. Like this dude wants to talk about motorsport today.
Jason's walking around like.
He's just like, well, you couldn't see my face because I'm wearing a mask on the bus. You know,
right?
A national government mandate for buses. Yes, join our Discord, please. I was like, man, it's kind of convenient though because there were so many times over the last week and the week before I thought about, maybe I should stream some F1 because I've been playing a lot of F1 2020, and that's how I've learned a lot in a very quick span. Because like I said, I used to watch in the early 2010s, lost it. I actually just completely stopped watching a lot of forms of sport or motorsport in the mid 2010s and up until like maybe 2018. And so me picking up F1 2020, playing the game, the new game is out, F1 2021, and also watching on Netflix Formula 1 Drive to Survive. Formula 1 Drive to Survive, I really recommend it because it makes it very accessible to
the I'm gonna interrupt real quick. Because I'm going to go pee. You continue your story, but I'm going to go pee real quick.
I will continue my story. So I recommend to both you, both SkeetApp and everybody else, if you have Netflix, Formula 1 Drive to Survive has 3 seasons out on Netflix, and you really don't need to know anything about Formula 1 to watch it because it's kind of like a reality show almost. They talk use standards across the board because I'm boring but scrappy. Not entirely. Oh, I know what you're talking about for Mario Kart. Hey, dude, I kind of use that also. I use standard. The only thing I use the only thing I modify are the tires. I just use rollers. But Formula 1 Drive to Survive, I can't say it, man. I've had a lot of long days this week. That's been. I'm really hoping if SkeetApp wants to continue his knowledge about Formula 1. He's been learning a lot. It sounds like he's been learning a lot more about the physics side of it, which is a very complex topic because Formula 1 machines are very complex machines. Like I said, they cost. I want to say a car maybe costs $14 million to produce. It's expensive. This is why prices to attend a Formula 1 race are so expensive. The only Formula 1 race that we have in the United States is down in Austin, Texas. And I remember in the early 2010s, my brother and I were looking about maybe going down there until we saw the ticket prices, which were, not anything feasible. I believe the lowest price ticket was probably $300. But, I could be wrong. It's been a while. It's been close to 10 years since I actually looked. But these things are very, and I like motorsport just because I grew up on motorsport also. I grew up playing NASCAR game and watching NASCAR games, and I think another big game crucial to my love of motorsports was actually Gran Turismo 2 as SkeetUp comes back from his wonderful tinkle. Gran Turismo 2 is a game from 99, 98, I don't remember exactly, I think it was 98. Very foundational into my interest in cars and everything like that. But SkeetApp, welcome back. I was just telling people about Formula 1 Drive to Survive, which I think you should take a peek at, because really you don't need to know anything about Formula 1 to watch it. They basically teach you everything. That's how I picked it up again. I picked up Formula 1 again because I decided I'm going to watch Formula 1 Drive to Survive, and I was like, dang, like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. It was really an up to speed on what I've all missed, because it covers that entire season. It covers the previous season. And they got renewed, just announced today, I believe it was, that they're going to be making a season 4 for next season. So it will be based off of the 2021 season. So, and I guarantee you, the British Grand Prix between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, that's probably going to be one of the episodes. So I think you should keep a lookout on it. Probably be out early 2022 is be my guess.
Y'all see my new jersey? Guys, okay. I want to get into this because this has nothing to do with Formula One, has nothing to do with any motorsports.
Let's make this make this the last topic of the day. We'll end on this.
This is a very good last topic. So music is something that's very important.
Also, hold on, I like when you come back, we regained our 2 viewers that we lost, so now we're back to 5. So you do carry the show. Don't lie.
Nah, not even true, dude. My piss killed us. Anyway. So music is very important to me. It's something that matters a lot to me. It's something that I use to kind of match my mood, and it usually tends to bring me out of a funk, or it tends to kind of bring me down. I listen to sad music when I'm sad, and suddenly I'm happy again. I listen to looks like old school Astros with Zeppelin, dude. This jersey's sick. I listen to hype music when I'm hyped up. And it tends to kind of ground me a little bit more, because there's no music that can ever match the levels of hype that I will reach. Ever. But one of my favorite artists is dead. That's nothing new to me. My favorite artist of all time broke up. Shit. Damn. My current favorite active artist. I love EDM. I love dance music, right? Because I love how accessible it is. Jason, over here, actually made our theme song. The lovely music that you heard during our intro and the lovely music that you hear during our outro was made by Jason. Would you say that music's very accessible today, Jason?
Extremely. Both.
And it all has to do with the advent of
electronic music.
Yes. Electronic music made on computers. Fruity Loops, Ableton, Logic, doesn't matter what. Music is accessible these days. You have the money to pay for the program, you can make unlimited music, unlimited sounds. You no longer have to go to school for this kind of thing. You no longer have to spend years learning how to make music. There's even programs that help you mix and master. And so with the advent of electronic music has come artists that don't make enough money off of song and merch sales alone. Sorry, song and ticket sales. So they go to merch. And something that electronic artists love are baseball jerseys. Don't know why. Doesn't matter why. They just love them. So this is an exclusive jersey for the artist Elenium. It's from his Trilogy concert. Can you hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, we can still hear you just fine.
Okay. It's from his Trilogy concert, which sold out Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. You know why that's big? Because they had vaccinated seating, they had non-vaccinated seating. Non-vaccinated seating had a mask required. They had security walking around the whole time. He sold out Allegiant Stadium. I'm an Iowa State fan. We play UNLV this year in Vegas. They play at Allegiant. That's huge. The front, pretty sick. Has his Phoenix, has his logo, which is also a Phoenix. This is sick. The back is also sick. I'm taking off my headphones so I won't be able to hear you. It's got his name, Elenium. It's got his logo from his last album, Ascend. Right there. It's got fireworks because it's a celebration. Guys, this is the pinnacle of merch. I also have a Said the Sky baseball jersey, which I've worn multiple times. Elenium's number 3 because of the whole trilogy idea, which he had come up with when he was making his first 3 albums. He came out with Fallen Embers on July 16th, by the way, guys. Listen to it. It's insane. Sky is number 9. I don't know why, but I have his anti-sad boy club jersey.
Because 3 times 3 is 9, that's why.
Sure, we'll go with that. But like all of that kind of stuff, absolutely sick. How'd I like the Hawkeye ISU black jersey I got? Good quality. It's all right. It genuinely feels similar to the quality, similar to this. And this is a very high quality jersey. A lot smoother. It's not as fibrous, which I prefer the more fibrous feel because it feels a lot sturdier. But it is good enough that I would say it's a fun buy. If you find a player that you like and buy one of those, it's fun. It's worth I spent like $35 on the Kene Nwangu jersey, and I'm planning on buying a Dylan Sainer one here soon, just because it's really funny. It's a great novelty item, you're right, because it says, I think I wore it for an episode.
You did.
Yeah,
it says Nwangu, yeah.
It says what did it say? Cyclones.
I think it has
Cyclones.
and
then it has the Tiger Hawk.
And it had the Big 12
on
logo.
The collar. The Big 12 logo. It has the Fiesta Bowl logo on it, but it's like a PNG, so it's super pixelated. Like, jerseys are such a fun thing. NBA jerseys are super fun to have. Baseball jerseys are insane. And I tell you what, guys, if you ever find a music artist that you like and they're selling merch and you see that they're selling a jersey, buy it, because it supports them even more directly than buying their album does, because nobody takes a cut if they're selling it through their own site. They're getting a majority of what's being spent on that, and it's something that's just absolutely immeasurable to I don't know how many artists. I was talking to I don't even remember who. I was talking to some artist just randomly. I don't remember how I got into it. And I was like, how does somebody support small artists like that? Like you. And he goes, buy our merch, man. We get most of that. He goes, it's literally like an insane feeling, but I get a notification like somebody bought this item, somebody bought that item, and somebody like Elenium's huge now. I assume that you've never heard of him. You'd never heard of him unless I've brought him up before, Jason, right?
Yeah, as far as like electronic music, not super well versed on any of the newer artists. But
Elenium sold out Allegiant Stadium. That is like, I think he was able to have like 80,000 people. There were no tickets available for his show. Sold out. He headlined Lollapalooza. He headlined the Bud Light stage, which is the big stage. Not only that, he headlined the same night that Steve Aoki was playing. And if you don't know Steve Aoki, you've never listened to any music in the last 10 years.
I think of Steve Aoki as the 2010s Timbaland.
He is
like Timbaland was big in the 2000s. Like, he was the big producer, artist kind of thing. And then Steve Aoki was kind of that person also in
He was. And then he's very big in Korea right now because he does a lot of work with BTS, because Steve Aoki is Asian. I can't remember if he's Korean or not. But to headline the same night that Steve Aoki is, on a night that's full of massive EDM artists, and Steve Aoki is probably one of the best performers that I've ever had the pleasure of viewing. I watched his Lollapalooza set on Hulu, and I was just enamored with how he performed. It was incredible. But then Elenium's also going to be performing at the LCS World, or at the League of Legends World Championships. You guys know how big League of Legends is? 100 million viewers at the 2020 Grand Finals for their World Championships. It's a lot. 100 million people watch that one game of the most boring MOBA to ever exist. That's with Heroes of the Storm.
Dr. Sai's gonna get mad at you.
Dr. Sai's got issues with League of Legends right now. I tell you what, he's had issues because their player base sucks, dude. But like, that's huge. The guy's just been absolutely destroying it. He played at Red Rocks the other day. He had a limited. 2 years ago? He had a limited edition jersey for the last time he played at Red Rocks for a major like festival, and that's worth $300 now. Like, it's worth $300. People are buying them for $300. Guy's blown up, and it makes my heart like so happy because I love his music. It's the right combination between sad and happy. It's the right combination between loud and soft. But if you find an artist that you want to support, buy their merch. Doesn't matter how big, how small. I fully support buying merch of music artists. Tell you what. And with that, it's time to end tonight. Jason, I know we talked about. Actually, we didn't talk about a whole lot tonight. Tonight was probably our most organized episode that we've ever had, which is very unfortunate. But you got any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Unfortunately, I didn't get to be able to talk to you about this before the show, but I think it's very imperative and very important that you guys follow Skidap on his Twitch channel too at Skidap TV, right?
I mean, yeah.
It's very. I say this for a really important reason, a really legitimate reason. So, just in this past week, I've been extremely busy. It's only the first week of classes, but I haven't been so much busy with classes. I've been busy with other things. Basically, it's looking like that I will be taking a very, very and more important role within the university. And at this moment in time, everything still planning to go as normal. The content of what we do is not planning to change. I'm still planning to be here when I can and everything like that. However, there's a lot of uncertainty because I don't really have a set schedule of what we're going to be doing yet. I know a lot of times, the stuff that I have to do with the university is going to be on Wednesdays. But, I don't know if things have to be planned on Thursdays. Basically, it's sounding the role that I may most likely it's looking like it's going to happen be taking is that I may have to travel across the state of Iowa, around the state of Iowa. So, like I said, I don't plan on going anywhere. The show does not plan on going anywhere. It's really, the timing's weird because, we just started season 3. We had a lot of things planned. And then this new opportunity / wrench was thrown in the mix. The reason I say that you need this follow Skidap is just in case I am unable to fulfill my duties as co-host, and I feel, Skidap needs to move it over to his channel and do an episode. Because honestly, just because I'm not here, or if I'm not available, and then again, I want to say this, I have full intentions of being available every single episode that we do, every single episode. But there's uncertainty right now.
Every episode that you're on, yeah, you're available. That's kind of how it works, right?
Well, just because I'm the one streaming it, which is why I want people. It's very, very, very important that you go and follow and put notifications on Finn's Twitch channel at Skidap TV, just in case I am unable to fulfill my duties. I don't have to take on this role as a whatever I'm going to be doing within the university. I'm not fully disclosing it yet. I don't have to do it, but I want to do it because it's a good opportunity. I don't have to do this podcast. I don't have to stay. But I want to. I want to do this. I want to continue doing this. And I will make every effort I can to keep on doing this, to keep on managing both. And I'm sure it will work out. I'm very sure it will work out. This is just a worst case scenario. I can't make it because I don't want the show for that week to be canceled just because I can't make it. I would rather Finn have a special guest on. Circle Herc, you're a great guest. Really, really, you do a very good job of filling in as co-host. In case it needs to be moved over to his channel. So I'm just gonna leave it at that message for you guys, because this is really, like, you guys gotta, with everything going on right now. I've had 12-hour days basically every single day this weekend. It's just week 1 of school. We're figuring out a lot of logistics right now because it's a big role. It's a big role. So please, again, I've beaten it down so far. Follow him on Twitch at SkeeDapTV. Put notifications on, just in case. Finn, what do you got? I'm sorry.
Jesus fuck.
I'm sorry.
How the fuck do I follow
I am
that?
so sorry I had to drop that bomb on you, but I just did not have time.
How the fuck do I follow that? No, like, it's not even like for me. How the fuck do I follow that for them? Jesus fuck. Yeah, WoW is right, Circle Her. God damn.
Don't you go crying on me. Don't you guys go crying on me.
I'm trying to think about what the fuck I want to say. If you follow me, expect some Dota streams. That'll probably be it for a good while. Dota, maybe Trackmania, if I'm really feeling up to it. Was this because I wore the weight? Yeah, it was, actually. Your dad and I are taking a break, and it's because of you. Sorry. Okay? Sorry. No, goddamn. I don't know, yeah. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. I'm at SkeeDab. Jason is at J_Wrangle33. Feel free to follow us on Twitch. Crunchbar30, twitch.tv/Crunchbar33 is where we typically have the show. Apparently, it might have to be at twitch.tv/SkeeDabTV. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Underqualified. We're on YouTube. Just search Untitled Underqualified. That's all I can give you on that. We are on every platform that you can think of under the sun. And yeah, no, that's really all I got. Stream your favorite artists. Stream Industry Baby.
I feel so bad for just dropping this bomb of bomb on you, because I didn't discuss this with you beforehand, just because I didn't have the time. And 2, it's only the 2nd episode of season 3. And everything.
Today's been a fucking wild one for me.
I feel bad, but you know what? I'm gonna do my best to fulfill my duties for both.
I've vented about it on Twitter, but today's been a wild one for me. Goddamn. But anyway, we appreciate each and every one of you that watched us live. We appreciate everybody that watches us on YouTube, listens to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Alexa. Doesn't matter, man.
Hell, watch it. Stream it off of Circle Herc. Circle Herc will just replay our episodes and just speak it, and we'll speak it. He will speak it to you. Order your Circle Herc. Order your Circle Herc OnlyFans. Your Circle Herc OnlyFans.
Dude, I tell you what, man. The most encouraging thing that I've ever had in my life, and I mean this seriously. The most encouraging thing ever was just hearing words of support from people. Especially Circle Herc was the first one. He tweets it at me and Jason. He goes, watching your guys' New Year's episode, watching your guys' New Year's episode on my TV. LOL, this shit slaps, or whatever he said. And I got a DM from Iowa Hoops Dave. He goes like, hey man, I didn't know how to feel about you. I check out your podcast and I really enjoyed it. I've had so many people that have been like, hey man, that was really fun. You guys are just shooting the shit. I felt like I was just listening to two friends talk. And that absolutely means the world to us. We, like I said, we appreciate each and every one of you that check us out live. We appreciate each and every one of you that watch us, on our video on demand, or now we're on a ton of streaming services.
And I want to point out a lot of this has to do with Skidap. Skidap has been the driving force. You know, this podcast really would not exist if he hadn't reached out to me at fucking 2 a.m. on a Saturday night.
If I hadn't been drunk as shit.
Yeah. He is the one who has built this podcast basically, and the idea and the premise of it. So I like what, you know. It feels wrong for me to say I like what we've built, because yes, we have built it together, but foundationally it wouldn't exist without him. So I do like what he's brought to the table, and I like what he's been able to bring to everybody around the United States, because technically we have had people from around the United States. We've had somebody from California on the show. We've had people from the East, haven't we? Have we had people from the East yet?
Is Texas in the East?
No. Oh, okay, so we had from the South then. So it's been across the Midwest and also in California too. So and you know, these things. Skidap's the one who's actually been reaching out for guests too. So.
Oh no! Wait. Keith Duncan grew up on the East Coast, so we're good.
Okay, so we do have across the U.S.
We go all across the country.
So yeah, I like what I like what we do, and I like what Skidap has done and built.
The very last thing that I want to say: be on the lookout on our feeds next week, because next week, huge show coming up. Jason will not be involved in the slightest. And I can guarantee you, this shit will be insane.
I have no idea what this is.
Ladies and gentlemen, we love each and every one of you. And with that, roll clones.
Roll credits. Finn will definitely see you next week. I probably will too. I'm not gonna lie. I will probably be here again next week.
You bitches will see me twice. Get fucked.
All
you guys
right.
are stuck with me.
All right. Roll credits. Let's go. Have a good night, everybody. Please continue to stay safe. Bye-bye.